Hi Sparkles, welcome back to Intuitive Wisdom. This is episode 239. Today we're exploring the idea of a creative reset. Not as something you force, but as something you allow. A return to your own rhythm, your energy, your own inner design. I'm joined by Rubina Chadha, founder of Inner Design, who she helps creative leaders, entrepreneurs, and visionaries move from burnout and creative blocks into clarity and flow. Through her work, blending her background in the arts, education, and breathwork, she guides people back to their inner world so that their outer work can feel aligned, intentional, and alive again. In this conversation, we talk about what it really means to trust your intuition, even when it asks you to step away from something that seems right on paper. We explore how creativity is not something you earn, it is something you already are, and how reconnecting to your breath, your body, and your natural energy patterns can shift everything. Rubina shares how slowing down is often the first and most powerful step, how learning the way your energy moves through your body can change how you make decisions, and how designing your day around your own rhythms can unlock a whole new level of clarity and ease. So if you've been feeling stuck, disconnected, or like creativity has gone quiet, this episode is a gentle invitation back to yourself. Here we go. Welcome to Intuitive Wisdom, a space where insight meets energy and intuition leads the way. I'm K. Margaret Solorio, author, Angel Reiki Master, biotech graduate, and a guide for those seeking alignment in their home and life. Whether you're navigating change, clearing emotional clutter, or simply craving clarity, Intuitive Wisdom invites you to slow down, tune in, and rise into your authentic self. New episodes weekly. Come home to your own knowing. Hi Sparkles, quick announcements before we get to the episode. First, I created a free 3-day experience to help you gently reset your space and your energy. It's called the Spring Energy Refresh. This isn't about perfection or deep cleaning your entire house. It's about clearing stagnant energy, inviting lightness back in, and reconnecting your space to that natural rhythm of spring. Inside, you'll get simple guided checklists, reflection prompts, and grounding rituals. Just 3 days, and by the end, your home will feel lighter, and so will you. You can download it for free at deliciousease.com/spring. And if you're ready for a deeper support, I offer a home frequency reset service where I help clear the energy in your home so your space feels calm, supportive, and aligned. These are remote sessions, so they're easy to schedule. And our homes hold on to that emotional residue of everything we experience. Stress, transitions, even old patterns. And over time, that can feel heavy. This work gently clears that buildup so your home can truly support you. You can learn more and book a session at deliciousease.com/services. And if you're looking for more, my book, Make Ease Your Vibe, is available now on Amazon in both paperback and Kindle versions. It's filled with practical tools to shift your mindset, your energy, and your time in a way that feels intuitive and supportive. And when you purchase your copy, you can also get access to exclusive bonus content by going to the website and clicking on book. And finally, I'm excited to share that Intuitive Wisdom now has listener support open. If this podcast has supported you in any way, you can give back with a monthly donation starting at just $3 a month. And as a thank you, you'll receive a shout out on our monthly Insights episode, a custom blessing spoken in your name, and healing energy intentionally sent your way. It's a beautiful exchange of energy, and it truly helps these conversations flowing. You can become a supporter through the link in the show notes. Thank you for being here, thank you for your presence, and for the energy you bring to this space. Now let's get to the episode. Rubina, thank you again for joining me today. I'm excited about having a conversation about creative reset. How are you?
Well, thank you so much for having me here.
Yeah, well, you may know on this podcast, we like to explore what it means to live in alignment with your energy and how trusting your intuitive wisdom can transform your inner and your outer world. So I ask all my guests, and I'm curious for you, if you could share a time when your intuition nudged you to do something unexpected.
Yeah, there has been many moments, but one that clearly stands out for me was when I think my body and intuition clearly told me to step away from a path that looks successful on paper, besides, a lifestyle that I had felt disconnected from and really exhausted. The nudge was just was actually quiet. It was not quite dramatic. It showed up kind of as fatigue and resistance and a sense that my breath felt shallow and my whole life was kind of not, in flow. And so trusting that inner signal really led me to pause, to reset. And eventually that was the creation of inner design for me. What kind of felt risky at that time became the most aligned decision I have ever made.
Wow. Yeah, I think a lot of us can resonate with that. And I'm looking forward to learning more about inner design. I was reading that you have a creative reset program that translates energetic strengths into business marketing. And I was curious, how do you help your clients identify their energetic strengths?
Mostly by slowing everything down first. I think when we think of business, it's strategy and marketing. Look at how their energy moves through their body. How do they make decisions? What's the daily rhythm? And using that kind of as a map, breathwork as regulation, reflective creative practices. I think that clients, I've seen them begin to notice patterns, how they naturally lead and communicate and create. And I believe that we all are designed to be ourselves, and we are conditioned, and it's part of that unlearning process, deconditioning process, to notice patterns of, what is hindering their natural strengths. And rather than intellectualizing them, I really have great experience with them, helping them translate the energy into clear messaging and a more direct business strategy, if you'll call it strategy in that way. Energetic alignment becomes more authentic, more sustainable.
Is it kind of then identifying what you value? And is that tied to the energy, or how do you find that flow? Or just observing?
I believe, yes, it's observing. And I believe that our body really tells us all the signals. It's a visceral experience. There's somatic, people are like, okay, somatic practices. Well, everything about our life is somatic and visceral. We are in this body. We are feeling through it. We're feeling those vibrations. Everybody knows that. Like, I walk in someplace and I have a good vibe, or I don't have a good vibe about something. Is it just me? Is it something I ate that's off? Right. So kind of learning to see what are those signals. And it does take this moment for awareness, but awareness can come only when we really just slow down. The train doesn't come just to a halt immediately in our life. As you can see, like way before the station starts to slow down, and then we can come to a stop, take that deep breath, re-energize our body, get aligned with our being, and then work from that place as baseline.
Okay. Finding your baseline. That makes a lot of sense.
Yes.
I'm curious to hear also more about the different modalities you use. I read that your work combines mindfulness, human design, breath work, you've mentioned, creative practice. Can you talk about how you use all these different modalities to help create sustainable change?
Yeah, each modality plays a specific role. Human design, I do like to reference it because I believe it offers a language and a structure for understanding the energetic patterns we're born with. And then the creative practices, we're all born as a child that just creates naturally. There's not a lot of pretense. That free-flowing or scribble scrabble that we see with kids is an expression of energy, and we have kind of modified and moved away from that as adults. And so coming back to not necessarily scribbling, but sometimes just doodling and letting the mind free flow and going into it that way, instead of thinking I have to come with an outcome, I have to produce something. Living in a society that values that production and outcomes all the time, taking this moment to get creative helps to integrate things, making insights more tangible. And then breath work, the most simple, basic thing we all have from the moment we're born to the moment we exit this life is our breath, and it's been regulating it. And it's really a sign of life, right? It's that baby comes through the birthing canal in that moment and takes that big, deep breath and then cries. It's like that is an expression, a sign of life and living. And then the very last moment we have on this earth is that slow, long exhale. Sometimes it's even heard as a sigh when the person is leaving their body. And it's kind of like everything in between that is what we call life, every breath. And our breath can really be a pulse that we can keep an eye on or focus on and realize how things are happening with us emotionally, mentally, psychologically. The mental state that we're in shows up in our breath. So when we kind of use that and go backwards and say, okay, when we're crying, it's a sobbing, or we feel sad, it's like a big exhale. When we feel joyful, and like think of when you smell a fragrant flower, it's like it's lighthearted, it's uplifting, that kind of thing. These already are happening. So that's the greatest thing about breath, is that it's already happening. It's automatic, but it's also something that we have access to control, right? Like our heartbeat is automatic, but we don't have access to control it. Yes, we can do breath and stuff like that will help us to regulate our heartbeat. But the breath is so instantaneous for us to be able to get in there hands-on. And first thing is just take an awareness of, we are not using our full lung capacity. Babies, they breathe in their sleep. You can see their bellies rising and falling. And we have become tense in our guts, and we are not listening to ourselves, and we're kind of like, or we're holding it in, or we think it's strong to have a core. And so the breath goes with that, intensity. But if we allow the breath to flow the way it's supposed to, and we start to consciously make the decision that, oh, I'm tightening up my breath. Oh, I must be holding it. I'm upset, or I'm tense, or I'm uptight. And now if I practice that enough to have the awareness, I also can have the key and the clues to when I'm going to go into something that's going to be very intense. So let me take these deep breaths into my belly because I know they relax. Or let me I notice I'm sighing a lot, so maybe I need more inhalation, and try to make it more energized and bring in that life force energy that helps us. That will help us to regulate our nervous system, so the body will feel safe enough to make the change. Okay, I'm not in fight or flight. I'm okay. I'm rested. I'm safe. Right. So they're just, it's not about forcing new habits. The shift is going to last when we start to recognize that we have an inner system first, and work on the outer life through that place of awareness and conscious decisions.
Yeah. Again, I'm coming back to that baseline. It sounds like that starting there. So you mentioned your business is called Inner Design. I'm curious what inner design means to you, and if you could tell us more about that.
Inner design is the understanding that everything we build externally is shaped by what's happening in that internal space, right? So it's the practice of designing your inner state with the same care that we give to our careers, our homes, our brands. When, like I mentioned, the inner system is regulated, it's clear and aligned, decisions can become simple, and life can feel coherent. So to me, inner design is returning people to their own rhythm rather than asking them to perform by someone else's rhythm. So it's not about a business externally for me. The inner design was an internal journey for me that I found for myself that I share with others. And so I feel it's a service that I'm honored to provide.
It's beautiful. And it just feels like there must be a lot of work. You talked about unlearning to get down to that inner design, or that baseline.
Yes, in human design, there's a lot of talk of deconditioning, because we all are born pure, innocent, and really all-knowing. A baby knows what they need, and the communication is not there. So it's there, but we have to learn how the child is communicating to us. Babies have different kinds of cries, but we don't learn these things. So I always feel like human design can be kind of a map to parenting, and then to reparenting ourselves. I mean, we are conditioned by school, culture, society, family, all of the things that we're subjected to throughout our life. And then just kind of going, hey, some of these things may work. Some things are not, it's not so dramatic that they're all wrong. There's a part of us that knows ourselves. There's a part of us in our family and our environment that might recognize us, and we may feel that alignment. So those little pieces where we can collect throughout our life. Yes, this felt really aligned. This person really understood me. This really helped for me to feel reinforced that I was doing the right thing, and kind of keeping those in the back of your mind, but not working from the mind, working from the body. And how did that feel? And how can I bring that back into my life? How can I make those kind of choices, redirect or steer my, life path using those signals? It's a beautiful journey to go on. I love to see people take that, opportunity. It takes courage, it's bravery to kind of break from patterns and habits, but it's enlivening. Ultimately, it's life-giving, life-affirming.
Yeah, it feels like you're literally aligning with life. I also read that you speak, and I wasn't quite clear. Do you advocate for women in spiritual entrepreneurship, or do you work with those? Are you often the clients you work with, or you speak about that topic? What's your connection to the
I
spiritual
do.
entrepreneurs?
I do work with all entrepreneurs. Yes, many of them are women and many of them are spiritual. I think that's who maybe do get drawn to me as well. And I do advocate for women trusting their inner authority rather than overriding it in the name of hustle or comparison, because I lived that. And so coming from that space, um, for me, it's very natural to help them and guide them. And I think people see that, oh, yeah, you were doing this. It took you off in a different turn, and then you were able to, U-turn or course correct and come back to yourself. How did you do that? Let me ride along with you, or help me to figure out which way. And yes, many people that I'm, grateful to serve are entrepreneurs, are leaders, are creatives who feel called to build businesses that honor their values, their bodies, their intuition. So yes, it is under that category of spiritual, but I wouldn't say it's exclusive. But I think all businesses are coming into, again, maybe wanting to have things that are sustainable, that are more meaningful, that honor values, that sort of thing. And so I really do support them in grounding their spirituality in daily decisions. So it becomes practical, embodied, sustainable, rather than abstract as spirituality can often feel to some people. Mm-hmm. It's about bringing them back in and making it practical.
Yeah. And I think your experience definitely helps you translate that. I think a lot of times when we're looking to make a change like that, the world made sense one way, the way we learned it, and now we're looking in a different direction and it's just confusion. So how do we take what we know and apply it to what we want to be? There's definitely translation that's needed.
Yes, precisely.
Well, I wanted to speak more about the energy. I work with my clients to help them energetically align their spaces, often their homes. And I think you had written about how we can structure our day to match our energy patterns. Could you speak a little bit more about that?
Yeah. So I kind of, on the overview of it, I think of our whole life being made of small little, daily practices, little incidences. But I more specifically think it is based on decisions, choices. Small choices become bigger decisions and then guide our life into certain directions. So understanding how to make decisions that are aligned. And structure, I feel, doesn't have to be rigid. It needs to be responsive. That's the flow that we feel is just, encouraging people for them to design their day around moments of regulation, focus, restoration. Sometimes it looks like starting the morning with breath instead of stimulation, and scheduling, maybe a creative or decision-making work when you're naturally more energized. Maybe, you have that higher access to your energy. Then do your creative work, do your decision-making work when that is happening. And allowing intentional pauses for me is important rather than pushing through fatigue. Okay, I need to get this done as a deadline. What can I do instead of grabbing maybe for another cup of coffee to get through that next 30 minutes? Can I close my eyes? Can I just rejuvenate from the inside and access, well of energy that is in our body, in our being? And then how much more can come through that? Sometimes more clarity and things like that. Everybody's had that experience. Maybe they close their eyes, take a few deep breaths, or they're in the shower and they're relaxing, and then being that idea that that's the solution that they've been looking for, it comes into fruition. So we need that kind of a balance. We need to be able to have that opportunity. And I think it comes into daily scheduling with intention. And I think that when the day is designed with awareness, our nervous system stays balanced. and productivity actually improves. So a lot of people have asked me this, like, is this peak production, or what about the flow state? That is the natural outcome. How is the access? By going in these inward, balancing journey for yourself and finding whichever tools work. There's different tools for everybody. And the outcome ends up being higher productivity.
Because you're operating then at that higher vibration.
Right.
Do you schedule like pauses throughout the day, or does it kind of feel like it's a tool in your, metaphorical tool belt that if you are aware enough to realize you're not regulated, I'm not finding the words perfectly quickly, but then you use those tools?
I would say yes. I definitely would suggest scheduling pauses, but at this point in my life, I've had it enough. So it's just like any muscle, right? We practice, and at the start, the muscle is not used to it, and it's not in our daily schedule. It's not in our awareness. It's not part of our routine. And so we can fall off, and people really do feel like, oh, I thought I tried for a week or two. It's really something to exercise. And so at this point, to me, pauses happen for me personally, sometimes, often. Actually, I'm at a red light and I'm like, oh, this is a moment for me to do a quick body scan. I'm not going to close my eyes. I want to be aware of everything going on around, but I could take a deep breath and I could feel my toes and maybe wiggle them in my shoes and just kind of get this awareness. And then I'm ready to go again, the next green light. So these come more as flow for me, but I definitely suggest starting with it scheduled. That there's the smartwatches that are like sometimes like, oh, it's time to stand. You've been sitting for a long time. So these are good alerts. It makes us more aware to our body and to our rhythm. And eventually, when people are trying to count their steps or whatever that is, right, they are in enough of a rhythm that they start getting that step goal more automatically. They can turn off that alert so it's not pinging them all day. So this is kind of similar in a way. You can set alerts and say, okay, every hour I'm going to take a deep breath. I'm going to close my eyes just 1 minute. I just need that pause. And or every time I see a certain time on the clock. That's how I used to train myself. All right, every time, 11 minutes happens at the end of the clock, right? Like people are like, oh, make a wish. It's 11:11. No, I would just say, okay, this is my moment to just connect into myself, into the spiritual realm that I am connected to already, that's running my life without me, because I wouldn't know what to do in my internal organs. All that stuff is being divinely taken care of for me. So just, a moment for me to just honor that, for me to respect it, that yes, I am this part of divinity, part of universal energy, part of the existence. And I'm just going to take a deep breath. It's not even a full minute, and just, okay, I'm here, right? So this becomes part of your daily routine, becomes part of the being that you are, becomes part of how you live outwardly. And then you can take off those schedules and just be in it. And we all, it's, I just want to say this part on it too, is we all have tough days. We all have tough times. We all fall off that bandwagon, and it's okay. People will ask me like, wow, you're always there. And I'm like, no, I have tough times. I have challenges. I face them. The only difference is now my reaction time, or to the course correction time, is maybe a few moments. And before, it might take days, weeks, out, months or whatever, going through emotional turmoil. Now, when it hits me, because we're human having this life experience of ups and downs, and that's what makes life beautiful. And it's part of that flow. And when it hits me, I'm kind of like, oh, well, I may get knocked around and then be like, oh, wait, what's this? Let me observe and then catch myself in shorter, like I said, reaction time. So.
Yeah, I love that. And I've noticed that in my journey as well, that shortens, and it's so much better. It's a relief. But also, I like how you pointed to finding this baseline and connecting back to your inner design regularly allows you then to move forward with making better decisions. But it also sounds like tuning in not only to your spirit and your place of calm, which is kind of what I've learned so far, but tuning into your body then allows you to understand better what's okay for you and what's not okay. Because I think a lot of times we make decisions maybe about boundaries or something that's very head-based and not in your body or in your heart, kind of like, oh, and then that, I feel like your mind really falls back to conditioning or what you've learned or what you've decided was okay and not actually listening to the reaction.
Exactly. I say, sometimes in spiritual practices, they're just like, get this mind to quiet, put it aside, turn it off.
Yeah.
No, the mind is really there to do a couple jobs. And one of them is to take in all this information. We are in information overload, not because of the technology we have, but because our world is, very rapid and beautiful and all of that and vibrant and vivid. And so it's constantly taking in data for us, information. And then we need to sort that through our system, right? And then the other thing our mind is great at is judgment. It's there for a reason. And instead of judging the judgment and saying, oh gosh, it became judgy, or that person's judgy, or let's just look at it. Like judgment is another way of getting that information, or it's keeping us safe. It thinks it's keeping us safe. So if we look at judgment of like, oh, this is trying to alert me of something, is it really relevant? Let me check in with my whole self, right? The rest of my being. We're not just this decapitated part that has all the senses moving around the world. We have all of this. And the majority of our system is in our torso and our body, right? And where the breath is happening and the heart is beating in that regulation. So, like we can live very long with a lot of the organs slowing down or even stopping, but the lungs, we just got a breath or two and that's it. So that is just so delicate of a balance and such a blessing. So why couldn't we sync up with it and say, oh, if I extend my breath when I'm feeling stressed, it's going to help me to face something. Or when I notice I'm crying and I'm sobbing and they're short, like, let me help myself get through it.
Yeah, I love that. And it's so simple too. And it causes you to slow down, to think about your breathing and to focus on it. But also to think of that as literally aligning with life itself, with your own life. Is there anything you would like to add to our conversation?
I would say that alignment is not about being someone new or becoming someone new. It's about remembering who you really are beneath the conditioning and the pressure. When people learn to listen to that, trust their inner signals, life begins to feel less forced and more truthful. And I believe that's where clarity, momentum naturally arise.
Oh, I love that. And that definitely makes you pause too and think. Well, thank you so much. Where can listeners connect with you and your work?
Thank you. Listeners can find me at theinnerdesign.com, my website, and I am active on Instagram at The Official Rubina. So both of them have the word "the" in front. That's where I share practices, reflections, information about my programs and offerings. I'm active on social media, LinkedIn, if people want to find me, Rubina Chadha. And I reach out. I respond with all of my messages. There's no bot. There's no assistant. So I'm happy to hear from anyone and personally.
Wonderful. Thank you. And I will, of course, include all the links in the show notes. And thank you so much. I really appreciated this conversation.
Thank you. Likewise. It's been a pleasure being here.
Thank you for joining me on Intuitive Wisdom. If this episode brought you clarity or inspiration, please take a moment to leave a 5-star review. It truly helps others find this space. And if someone you love you could use a shift in energy, share this episode with them. You never know what might resonate. For more, explore my frequency reset service, tune into more episodes, or begin the journey through my book, all at deliciousease.com. That's DELICIOUSEASE.com. All right, until next time, trust your energy, honor your space, and keep coming home to yourself.